Jesus has always been more than a historical figure mentioned in the Bible. He is the very essence of the transformation so many people search for without even realizing it. In biblical history, we see that every word Jesus spoke carried a wisdom capable of restoring identity, healing broken emotions, and reigniting hope in weary hearts. And it's fascinating how, even after centuries, his teachings still speak directly to the deepest wounds of our modern world. If the soul longs for direction, it's because, deep down, it already knows where it needs to return. And when someone truly draws near to Jesus, something subtle yet powerful begins to happen. The heart starts to notice what it once overlooked. There is a clarity that doesn't come from ordinary books, but from the living pages of the Bible and the richness of biblical history itself. And perhaps this is the most intriguing paradox. The more people ignore Jesus, the more they feel the absence of what only He can offer. Peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, strength born from faith, and purpose that outshines confusion. Now here's a counterintuitive truth. You don't have to turn your whole life upside down to experience transformation. Sometimes, understanding just one single lesson from Jesus is enough to start shifting everything. Because when the mind understands, the heart opens. And when the heart opens, the path begins to align. In the next steps, you will discover simple yet profoundly powerful teachings that can reshape how you love, forgive, and navigate life's challenges. If your desire is to grow spiritually, find inner peace, and learn how to apply the teachings of Jesus in a practical, real-life way, then you are exactly where you need to be. Before we continue, here's a special invitation. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because here you will learn, step by step, how to walk a journey of transformation guided by Christ Himself. Get ready, what comes next may be the beginning of a deep change in your life. The first teaching we learn from Jesus is that loving your neighbor springs from the same source as self-love. The Bible shows clearly that those who treat themselves with gentleness see the world with more softness. Throughout biblical history, this principle appears repeatedly as the foundation of healthy relationships. Loving yourself means recognizing your own dignity. And those who recognize dignity in themselves naturally recognize it in others as well. When a person begins to see the humanity present in every face, relationships transform. The Bible reveals that each human being carries silent pains that shape their behaviors. Understanding this naturally reduces rushed judgments. Biblical history reinforces that empathy is a mature form of love, and when our perspective changes, our responses change along with it. In many moments, loving your neighbor means responding with intention instead of reacting from impulse. The Bible shows that meekness is controlled strength, not weakness. In tense situations, taking a deep breath for 3 seconds can prevent an entire conflict. Biblical history demonstrates that self-control always bears fruit. And this can be applied in family conversations, professional environments, and everyday encounters. The second teaching we learn from Jesus is that love is expressed more through actions than through words. The Bible often highlights the power of simple gestures. An unexpected kindness, a sincere compliment, a helping hand at the right moment. All of these create invisible yet profound impacts. Biblical history is full of small actions that change destinies. To love is to act, even when no one is watching. Relationships grow stronger when people care for themselves in a balanced way. The Bible warns that those who live in constant self-criticism end up reflecting that same harshness onto others. In biblical history, healthy self-love is treated as the foundation for any genuine form of giving. Inner value does not come from applause. It comes from recognizing oneself as a beloved creation. A simple habit can support this practice, creating a daily ritual of inner alignment, reading the Bible for a few minutes, writing down 3 important thoughts, or practicing gratitude helps reorganize emotions. Biblical history teaches that transformation begins on the inside before it appears on the outside. These small rituals cultivate clarity, and clarity opens the way for lighter relationships. The third teaching we learn from Jesus is that how we treat our own mistakes shapes how we treat the mistakes of others. The Bible shows that mercy grows out of recognizing our own fragility. Those who learn to forgive themselves develop greater compassion. Biblical history demonstrates that mercy transforms relationships. It builds bridges where walls once existed. True love also reorganizes priorities. Situations that once triggered conflict begin to be seen through a wiser lens. The Bible reveals how love dissolves tension and creates room for understanding. Biblical history confirms that love adjusts our inner posture before it adjusts any external circumstance. And this changes how each person lives daily life. This path of loving your neighbor is not a final destination but a continuous process. The Bible shows that each step deepens awareness and expands sensitivity. Biblical history illustrates this steady growth as part of a spiritual journey. And as this path develops, it prepares the heart for an even more challenging teaching, loving even those who hurt us. The third teaching we learn from Jesus is that loving our enemies frees the heart from invisible prisons. The Bible shows that holding on to resentment drains energy, clarity, and even our ability to make good decisions. In biblical history, we see that love directed toward an enemy works like a spiritual key, opening inner spaces once locked by pain. This love is not submission, but wisdom. It is choosing not to carry burdens that serve no purpose. When someone understands that revenge is a cycle that never ends, a new way of seeing the world begins to take shape. The Bible shows that those who respond in kind only perpetuate conflict, but those who choose calmness cut the thread of emotional violence. In biblical history, this posture always elevated people above their circumstances. In daily life, it can mean refusing to respond to provocations, avoiding useless arguments, and preserving inner peace. These choices protect the soul. Realizing that others carry wounds we cannot see changes how we interpret the attacks we receive. The Bible shows that many people hurt because they are hurting. This truth, found throughout biblical history, helps bring clarity instead of revolt. In everyday life, this allows someone to respond with balance rather than absorb another's negativity. And a balanced response always benefits the one who offers it. The fourth teaching we learn from Jesus is that praying for those who persecute us transforms our inner atmosphere before it transforms the outer environment. The Bible teaches that prayer reorganizes feelings, bringing lightness to what once felt heavy. Throughout biblical history, praying for difficult people always produced deep change. This act shifts the focus away from hatred and restores emotional control. It is a powerful spiritual strategy. Prayer also opens the door to wiser interpretations. The Bible reveals that when the heart calms down, new insights emerge. In many biblical stories, important decisions were only made after a moment of prayer. In everyday life, this can mean pausing, reflecting, and praying before acting during conflict. A quiet mind sees more clearly. Compassion, when practiced toward those who hurt us, does not mean accepting abuse, but choosing to respond with awareness. The Bible reinforces the balance between firmness and love. In biblical history, we see leaders who made strong decisions without abandoning compassion. Applying this today can mean setting healthy boundaries, breaking cycles of aggression, and preserving dignity. This kind of love is strong, not fragile. The fifth teaching we learn from Jesus is that loving those who harm us reveals true spiritual maturity. The Bible makes it clear that this love does not depend on others changing, but on our own inner growth. In biblical history, individuals transformed their destinies when they chose mercy over hatred. This love does not deny pain, but prevents pain from defining who we become. It is a deep form of liberation. The wisdom of loving enemies reorganizes priorities. What once seemed overwhelming becomes easier to face. The Bible shows that love illuminates situations that once felt confusing. Biblical history reinforces that this type of attitude brings emotional clarity, and with clarity come better decisions. This is the silent strength of love. And as this understanding grows, it prepares the heart for something even more transformative: mercy in action. The next teaching deepens this movement and shows how Jesus leads this path with both firmness and tenderness. The sixth teaching we learn from Jesus is that mercy is not just a feeling, it is a conscious action. The Bible shows that mercy is compassion turned into movement. In biblical history, whenever mercy appears, lives are restored. It does not expect perfection, but recognizes the humanity present in every mistake. Showing mercy is offering what each of us, sooner or later, will need to receive. Mercy begins where rushed judgment ends. When someone chooses to look beyond a failure, they discover layers that were previously invisible. The Bible reveals that a merciful heart sees possibilities where others see only defeat. In biblical history, this perspective often marked the beginning of great transformation. Mercy opens doors that strictness never could. Mercy also works as an emotional filter. The Bible teaches that practicing mercy prevents wounds from hardening into bitterness. In biblical history, mercy protects the heart from becoming excessively harsh. In daily life, this can mean taking a deep breath before reacting, listening before judging, or offering an explanation before an accusation. Such attitudes refine relationships. The seventh teaching we learn from Jesus is that mercy includes offering second chances. The Bible is filled with characters who received new opportunities and flourished. In biblical history, many discovered their purpose only because someone believed in them one more time. Applying this principle can mean allowing someone to start again, resetting expectations, or offering guidance instead of punishment. Mercy creates room for growth. Mercy also means recognizing that we are all imperfect. The Bible describes that no one walks without stumbling. When this truth becomes clear, our posture toward the mistakes of others softens. In biblical history, awareness of one's own fragility always produced compassion. In everyday life, this can be practiced by avoiding comparisons, acknowledging vulnerabilities, and exercising patience. Being merciful does not mean ignoring boundaries, but applying them with wisdom and kindness. The Bible shows moments when Jesus was firm without abandoning compassion. This balance appears throughout biblical history, revealing that mercy and truth walk together. In practical terms, this means correcting without humiliating, guiding without threatening, and advising with dignity. That way, a person learns without losing self-worth. The eighth teaching we learn from Jesus is that the mercy we offer eventually returns to us in unexpected ways. The Bible emphasizes that kindness sown always comes back multiplied. In biblical history, those who extended mercy received favor, peace, and emotional relief. When mercy is practiced, life becomes lighter. It feels as if the heart can finally breathe. Mercy also creates deeper connections. The Bible shows that where mercy exists, trust grows. In biblical history, strong relationships formed when people chose understanding instead of condemnation. Practicing this can strengthen friendships, restore homes, and even improve work environments. Mercy builds bridges that endure over time. And as this understanding matures, the heart becomes ready for an even deeper level of transformation, continuous forgiveness. What Jesus teaches next takes the journey inward and opens the door to true inner freedom. The ninth teaching we learn from Jesus is that forgiving repeatedly is not a sign of weakness, but of inner freedom. The Bible shows that forgiveness benefits first the one who gives it, not the one who receives it. In biblical history, forgiveness functions like a door that unlocks trapped emotions. It allows the mind to breathe again, and when the heart is relieved, new possibilities appear along the way. Forgiving does not erase the memory of the pain, but it removes the pain's power to control one's life. The Bible reveals that holding on to resentment is like walking while carrying weights never meant to be held for long. In biblical history, when someone forgave, they regained energy that had been tied to the past. Today, this can mean choosing not to relive old arguments, not feeding thoughts of revenge, and not repeating stories that reignite bitterness. Forgiveness also protects emotional health. The Bible indicates that the lack of forgiveness creates roots that contaminate other areas of life. In biblical history, those who chose to forgive found greater peace, discernment, and clarity. In everyday life, this might mean pausing before reacting, reflecting on the other person's intention, or analyzing the situation with emotional distance. These steps make daily life lighter. The 10th teaching we learn from Jesus is that forgiveness is not naivety, but a conscious decision. The Bible shows that forgiving does not mean allowing injustice to continue. In biblical history, individuals forgave, but also established firm boundaries. This can be applied by setting new relational rules, asking for changed behavior, or keeping distance from those who violate trust. Forgiveness and self-protection walk side by side. Forgiving is also an act of strategic wisdom. The Bible recounts moments when forgiveness interrupted conflicts and brought reconciliation. In biblical history, restoring relationships required courage, patience, and humility. Today, this may mean sending a conciliatory message, seeking an honest conversation, or simply refusing to perpetuate hostility. Small gestures create great progress. A lack of forgiveness can quietly infiltrate other areas of life. The Bible explains that accumulated bitterness affects decisions, relationships, and even personal goals. In biblical history, people who released forgiveness regained clarity of purpose. In everyday life, this can improve productivity, family dynamics, and overall well-being. Forgiveness opens space for the new. The 11th teaching we learn from Jesus is that constant forgiveness shapes a resilient heart. The Bible shows that repeated forgiveness builds emotional maturity. In biblical history, those who forgave often became stronger, not more vulnerable. This kind of forgiveness forms a stable, mature mind, and such a mind faces life with greater balance. When a person learns to forgive regularly, their view of human error changes. The Bible shows that forgiveness develops compassion and reduces unrealistic expectations of others' behavior. In biblical history, this perspective produced healthier, longer-lasting relationships. In everyday life, it decreases frustration and increases the ability to understand different viewpoints. And as this awareness deepens, the heart becomes ready for the next stage of spiritual growth. Understanding that the forgiveness we receive is closely linked to our ability to offer forgiveness. The next teaching expands this truth with even greater clarity and transformation. The 12th teaching we learn from Jesus is that the act of forgiving creates space to receive forgiveness. The Bible shows that a heart closed to forgiveness becomes unable to welcome grace. In biblical history, those who held on to resentment built emotional walls that blocked the entry of love. This teaching reveals a simple spiritual law. What we offer determines what we receive. To forgive is to open inner doors. A lack of forgiveness also distorts perception. When resentment grows, everything around begins to feel threatening. The Bible reveals that a wounded heart tends to interpret neutral situations as offenses. In biblical history, people trapped in the past missed opportunities in the present. In daily life, this appears in tense relationships, constant irritation, and difficulty trusting others. Forgiveness restores clarity. Forgiveness is also a bridge back to oneself. The Bible shows that releasing someone from guilt also frees the giver from pain. In biblical history, this emotional liberation always resulted in clarity and serenity. This can be practiced by writing down what needs to be released, having a necessary conversation, or simply choosing not to feed repetitive thoughts. Forgiveness and peace walk side by side. The 13th teaching we learn from Jesus is that the inability to forgive creates not only spiritual barriers, but emotional ones. The Bible explains that a hardened heart loses its ability to feel joy and compassion fully. In biblical history, many drifted from their purpose because they could not let go of the past. This teaching reminds us that forgiving does not mean approving the wrong, but freeing ourselves from the prison it creates. Often, the difficulty in forgiving comes from unrealistic expectations. The Bible shows that human beings fail, and that this is part of the process. In biblical history, great leaders learn through their own mistakes. In daily life, this means adjusting expectations, understanding human limits, and handling errors with maturity. This makes relationships more balanced. To forgive, it is necessary to create inner space. The Bible teaches that a heart full of noise cannot hear the voice of wisdom. In biblical history, moments of silence and reflection preceded great acts of forgiveness. Today, this can be practiced by creating pauses throughout the day, writing down emotions, or seeking inspiration in Scripture. These habits expand emotional awareness. The 14th teaching we learn from Jesus is that the forgiveness we receive and the forgiveness we offer are reflections of each other. The Bible reinforces that mercy flows in both directions. In biblical history, those who forgave generously received greater grace. This teaching invites us to cultivate a generous heart, ready to release and receive. When forgiveness flows, life flows more harmoniously. As someone learns to forgive more easily, relationships begin to transform. The Bible shows that forgiveness restores bonds that once seemed irreparable. In biblical history, unexpected reconciliations grew from small gestures. In practice, this can mean apologizing, initiating a conversation, or simply allowing a fresh start. Healing always finds space where forgiveness exists. And as this understanding deepens, a new invitation emerges. Before offering any spiritual gesture, reconciliation must come first. This next teaching of Jesus takes emotional and spiritual maturity even further, preparing the heart for meaningful restoration. When we look at all these teachings of Jesus and allow them to touch our hearts, something begins to shift inside us. The Bible shows, throughout all biblical history, that these are not just beautiful words, but profound paths of transformation. Paths that invite us to live with more truth, more lightness, and more purpose. And maybe the greatest secret is understanding that no one has to walk this journey alone. When the heart turns back to Jesus, communion with God becomes a daily source of strength and clarity. These teachings were never meant to burden us, but to free us. Each one leads us toward a kind of life the modern world constantly tries to erase. A life of inner peace, emotional maturity, and genuine love. Deep down, we all know that living far from this purpose weakens us. But when we decide to walk with Jesus, even stumbling along the way, the road begins to illuminate. He always finds a way to pull us back. So before we close, here's a sincere invitation. Allow yourself to live a life of true communion with God, not just in words, but through surrender, practice, presence, and daily transformation. These teachings are not theories, they are real tools for healing relationships, aligning the heart, and finding balance in the areas of life that feel out of control. And everything begins with one simple choice: opening your heart. Now I want to hear from you. Among all the teachings of Jesus we explored here, which one is the hardest for you to live out today? Is it forgiving? Loving someone who hurt you? Being merciful? Or maybe trusting God's plans when everything feels uncertain? Share in the comments. Your reflection may inspire others who are also striving to grow spiritually. And if this content helped you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you can continue learning, growing, and walking closer to Jesus every day.